Only 2 classes.
Employee and person.
So let's get started. I'm going to go over the inheritance one. I have to repeat this for those people who are watching this video because I'm trying to make this survive past the class meeting. So let's see. If we go into summer 2012, we go into object-oriented programming in C. We go down to the bottom and we look at Lecture 4 examples. This is for the Objective-C class, but I'm going over it for the iPhone iOS class because you guys want to know how to do classes. So that was a special request for today. We're going to go over this, and then we're going to hit some audio and video stuff after that. Alright, so if you download the file and you unzip it, you'll get a folder that looks like this. If you open it up, you'll see Inheritance 1 and Inheritance 2. You want to go inside of Inheritance 1. Don't run this guy. He's wrong. Double click again. I've accidentally nested it. Didn't know that until I actually downloaded it a few minutes ago. But this is the one you want to click on. It's nested inside. When you open it up, you're going to get this lovely little program here. That's a command line program. It's not meant for the iPhone or the iOS device. In fact, it runs on a command line input, so the output's going to show up down here. So if I press run, it should say max 64-bit or something up there. It says growing results 150. Is the output you get. If that happens, that means your code is correct. It means you've downloaded it.
Age is 10, age is 15, growing results is 150.
Oh, where does it say?
Age is 10, age is 15, growing results 150.
Age is 10?
Yeah.
Oh, did you modify it?
No, I didn't do anything.
Oh. In the bottom, all output screen on the bottom?
Yeah.
Looks like this here?
No, more than that.
Really? Interesting. Okay. Alrighty then. So maybe mine refreshed. Let's see, clear it. Let's see. Right, run it. I see growing results 150. Okay, no problem though.
Yeah.
Let's go over the code so you see what I'm doing. And then actually what we can do at the same time is I can kind of run through how you do it. So I'm going to leave this up so I don't have to keep typing everything. You want to create this application, you go into Xcode. And I'm just going to do it right from the beginning. I can have 2 Xcode windows open simultaneously. Well, okay, let's go into Xcode and go New Project. I know this is going to run my memory low, but it's okay. I'm going to do a command line tool, which is what I did, and I'm on the Mac OS X side of it today, just for this example. I'm going to go next, and then I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call this my test program. And you want to use Foundation because those are the classes we're inheriting from. We're not using Cocoa Touch interface to touch. We're using the regular one. And use the automatic reference counting if you're going to do this. And then save it. So I've got it saved. And so now you can see I've got 2 projects open simultaneously. I have one in the foreground and one in the background here. So I'm going to kind of use the other one in the background as a cheat sheet just to get some ideas and cut and paste so I don't have to actually do this by scratch. Because I'm a terrible typist. When you open it up, you get one program. It's called main.m. If you run it, nothing happens. If you run it, what happens when you run it? It says, some test program, hello world. Oh, that's lovely. Why does it say that? Because you have nslog hello world down here. Alright. So a good starting point is to create your own class. So that's what we're going to do. So you go up to File, and you go New, and you go File. And we're going to inherit from NSObjects. And we're going to create a person. We're going to create a person class. So in here, I'm going to click on Coca, because that's what I want to do here. So you want to make sure you're down here on the bottom if you're going to do it this way. We have been using the top. Objective-C class, and I'm going to go next. And I want to make sure I'm inheriting from NSObject. You see, we can actually come from document, view, NSView controller, but what I'm creating is just a regular person class because I want to show you basic object orientation. So I'm going to call a class person. It's not going to allow me to create an XIB because this is not a controller class. If I click on NS or any of the controllers here, the NSView controller, then I get this option here. But don't do that. So instead we want object. And we're going to see how this works in a few minutes. And then go next. And then save it. I'm just going to save it in the same folder that I'm saving everything else in, so I'm going to press OK. And then now I know I have the 2 corresponding .h's and the .m's created for me automatically. And in here I've got person.h and person.m. So usually what you want to do, and notice here I'm going :NSObject. This is where I got the NSObject from. If yours doesn't say that, then you've selected the wrong toggle when you created the class. And in here, and this is the interface, this is the .h that I just clicked on a few minutes ago. First thing I'm going to do is put in some opening and closing brackets if I want to, and demonstrate. I'm going to deviate a little bit from the example until I end up with typos. If I have any data, I can put the data in here. So let's say, for example, I have integer I.
This is for only the variables, not the method?
Correct, correct. Only data members, or call them variables, go inside of the opening and the closing bracket. All the methods, everything else, in fact, even the properties and the synthesize go outside. So I put an integer I in here just because to show you I can use I. But I am going to have to manually, this is just a variable, a data member. This is actually private. So I can also go here and go property and then give it a data type, and I'm going to call this an NS string because I'm going to use a name here for the integer I is just kind of a fake thing I just put in there just for the sake of it. I'm going to call this a name. When I do that, if I'm in the iPhone interface, it does it for me automatically. When I click on the GUI item and I control drag and I drop it over, it actually puts this property in there for me. And then if I flip over to the main, to the M file, it puts it in here for me too. But unfortunately, I'm not in an iOS environment, I'm in the Mac Coca environment, so I have to do it manually. If I look at this, it's automatically going to tell me a name. It says property name requires a method set name to be defined. Use synthesize or do it dynamically.
What's the difference?
Here's the difference. If I do this, if I go like this and I say synthesize, what did I call it, name? Yeah. Automatically creates the setters and the getters. So set name and get name, which are going to be name and get name. So name is going to return name, and then get name is going to, in fact, I think I may have it separated out on this one. It's equivalent to the Java set the variable and then retrieve the variable. So we're using these methods to access the private data members, which are private by default. And in here, I believe I've got it done both ways. So I have an age here. And actually, let me just do this. I'll do this for the I. Actually, you know what? I'll change I. I'll change I and I'll make it, this is why I like to cook. I like to cut and paste. I'll call it age. So this is one method of doing it. Method number one, auto method. Auto way of creating sets and gets. Here's the manual way of doing it. If I have age in here, instead of going property, I don't put name in here at all because I'm doing it the new way. If you're doing it the new way, you're only using property and synthesize. If I'm doing it the old way, then I'm going to do this. I'm going to put two member functions in here. One is going to say, actually I should call this age, capital A. And so this is set age and get age. So these are the function prototypes for the functions, which belong in the interface, which means over here in the .m file, I'm going to have to put in my method implementations. In this particular case, just cut and paste.
So the dynamic would do none of those?
Yep. So I'm going to...
And is it for all the cases or always a set and get?
Yep. It only creates sets and gets for you. So now what I did is I have got, if I use the property and the synthesize for name, I did the same thing than if I created a variable and called it integer age and then wrote two separate methods, one to get the age and one to set the age. You do one or the other, don't do both. Because if you do, if you're going to do it this way, when you want to customize it, when you want to convert, let's say it's an age and you want to do it like age times 10 or something, then this is just going to return a standard age. So if you want to get, as an example here, if I want to get age, I'm going to say return age plus 10. So I'm going to age by 10 years here. So it's going to take whatever value that's stored in for my age and times it by, plus it by 10 or something. So what I did is not really created very much functionality. Instead, I just created setters and getters for my person. And then what else do I have in this person over here? I think that's about it. I have a name and I have an age that's hard set. So normally we'd probably set like a year or something like that. I don't know if we do it that way. So now I decide, okay, this is a great person. I can add more functionality to it. I can do whatever I want. Or I can make an instance of the object. So I can come over out in main as an example. Did I make an instance of person? I did. Look at this. Copy. I'm gonna get rid of everything in between the auto release pool and the end. Get rid of that stuff. And in here, I'm gonna make a new instance of person, and I'm gonna immediately get this red little thing that shows up. And the red little thing is gonna say, well, there's a red little thing. You used an undeclared identifier person. Because out in main I have to go like this and I have to import it. Import person.h. And then that little red thing goes away and turns into a warning that says I haven't used it yet. Unused variable object 1. So I have to use the pointer symbol here. Some people like to do this with it. Some people like to do this with it. Yeah, I used a pointer here as well in person when I created the NS string. All objects have to be created with pointers. All integers, floats, doubles, no. Only objects. So objects are always pointed reference types. Everything else is non-pointer. Huh?
It's a variable, right? Name is a variable. It's not an object.
Yeah, but I could go out and I can create property, integer, my age. Yeah. So here I have another integer, my age. And my age doesn't have any pointer associated with it because it's an integer type. NS string, NS anything is always an object.
I know there's also NS numbers.
NS numbers. So if I did this, this NS number, it's going to complain. It's going to say, hey, interface type cannot be statically allocated. So this particular variable is statically allocated because at compile time, it's not a pointer. It's a regular old reference. It's a pass by copy normal variable that you get in any statically typed language. But Objective-C, in terms of the runtime environment, is all dynamically allocated, which is where the ID comes into place as well. So I could, instead of doing this, if anyone would call it that, well, okay, I have to put this asterisk in here because I want to dynamically, not statically allocate it. I can also do this. I can say property ID. Let's give it hair. I don't know, hair color. Hair color. How's that? And it doesn't know what it is, huh? See, that's why I don't type. It doesn't know what it is. It's an ID. So when I allocate the ID, then I have to say, oh, it's going to be something else. So this is kind of, not dangerous, but this is kind of a quick way of just creating references to objects, but they aren't static and they aren't dynamic, they're just something. And then we would take that object, hair color, and turn it into a person or something.
So
this would be an object.
Instantiating an object, does it return an object ID or something like that?
Doesn't return an object ID that you can actually do anything with. When you make an instance of the object, you get this returns the allocated memory that person was allocated. So this is actually 2 steps. We could, but we nested this opening closing bracket inside of this one. This init runs the init on NS object, which is the constructor. We didn't actually have a constructor in here, so it's not really running it. We could put one in here, but you know, it's just like those other examples I showed you last time. In fact, I think we've seen that actually already done. So person alloc is almost like a, person new. So person, my person is equal to new person if I were writing this in Java. So here's the Java, because you were in the Java class. Person, my person equals to new person.
Same feature.
No, you can't do this.
No, person new instead of allocate.
Yeah. This is equivalent to this. This is in Java, this is in Objective-C. In Objective-C, this is the same reference. This is actually the same concept. This is the same concept. And this is the same concept, except for we have person alloc, because we don't have new. And we don't have to say, well, give me a new person size. This is automatically assumed by init. And it's going to determine.
Yeah, in the documentation of that, they also point out there's another similar syntax. They use the person new instead of the allocate and initiate.
Person new?
No, the person attribute 1 equals person new in the bracket.
You know what they're doing here? They wrote a constructor and they called it new. We can do that if we go over here to person.
As long as you have no parameters.
And we have, yeah, well, it would be a constructor that would initialize, that would actually run. Now I can see it was lost. No, I think I did it for the other class. I did it for the Objective-C class. I didn't do it in this class. We made a constructor, called it, create one or something, and it basically runs person alloc. So you don't have to run, programmer never has to type in alloc in main if you're going to put it in a constructor, which is different than an initializer. An initializer is kind of the built-in method way of creating and allocating the object and the super object, which is NS object in this case. This is a method you're creating that's acting like a constructor. That's going to do this for you. It's going to allocate an object for you. So it basically cuts down on your steps and makes it more user-friendly, makes it more Java-like. But we didn't write this method. If I did, let's say for example, I did, I had new here. Well, new is not even giving me an error message, which is kind of weird. I could go, when I reference the object, I can say, what do I have in there? Get age. It should return age. So I can go, integer my int is equal to object1.age, get age. And this is going to tell me that unused, yeah, I have unused it. So I haven't used it, so I can go my int. Would be more an explicit way of doing it. It's not going to do the error message because I've used it. But this is and then actually I can do a print call here, and I can go, well, age is, we don't have the age. We didn't create an age. We have a set age though. So now let me set the age of the person. So if I set the age, I can do this here. And I can say, oops, let me go back to main. Before I get the age, I'm going to set the age. So I'm going to say paste. Object1 set age 10. And then the get age should actually increase my age by 10, so it should be 20. So if I printed it out to the screen, if I go, I can do this. I can go printf. This is a C command actually, and let's just go here. Age is now I, and then put in here my ints. What I've done is combined Objective-C with C++. So you can do scanf, printf, works. This should essentially print out, let's see if it works actually. Age is 10, age is now 20. Is this printing out? Let's see what this is printing out. Semantic issues, what's this mean? Property age requires a method, my age, yeah, because I didn't. Okay, so these messages are coming because I put in here my age out here. And I didn't finish the example. So I have my age, and I have age over here. So every time I have a property, I'm supposed to do a synthesize. So I have to remember name. No, excuse me. So I have name, but I don't have my age. So I'm going to go over here and fix that warning message by going synthesize my age. And what I've done now is I put a comma on synthesize. So I put two of them together. I could write it underneath and repeat it, but now you see the error message went away? Or it wasn't an error message, it was actually a warning message. The warning's okay. The program will run just fine, but I might run something that is going to get a reset on my agent, and then it's going to come back and say, hey, wait, the method's not created. You didn't synthesize. And then it's going to turn into an error at that point. So it's always not a bad, it's a good idea in habit to fix those warnings, because eventually they'll turn into errors when you least expect it. So here I have one print. What am I printing out here? Which is a good question. Oh, I'm printing it out here. Age is. When I set the age, I'm saying age is equal to X, and then printing out age is. And then when I run it, I'm getting the get age, and I'm just returning this value. And then out in main, I'm printing that out here, which is why we get those results. So now what we did is the same thing that we're going to do with any other object that we would create. We basically write the method, just like Java, actually. The key, and maybe the problem you're having is not including or not importing the person, perhaps. But let me show you another trick. Let's create an employee, and if we're ready. Are we ready to move forward? Okay, good. So I'm going to go File, oops, File, New, File. I'm going to do the same thing as before. Coca, Objective-C. And now I'm going to switch this on the bottom here, and you're going to see in here, there's going to be a person in here somewhere. In here, I should see a person. Here's a person way on the bottom. Yeah, you don't have to write this code.
So that means you're inheriting the person.
Instead of NS object, you're inheriting now from person. You do that, then the whole system is in sync. You don't have to worry about typos and stuff. So now I'm going to put in here employee, because an employee is a special type of person, right?
Yeah.
So, and obviously I don't have an XIB option because I don't have, it's not a view controller. Only the view controllers, or anything that would be the view or any types of controllers, I should say in general, are going to give you the XIB, because controllers are designed to control views or control interfaces, and XIB is the interface. So I'm going to save it. Now I have employee.h and I have employee.m, and if I look at employee.h, I see automatically person. Lovely. And then I go into the employee.m, I see employee.h, and I see employee. So everything's automatically set up for me. So it cuts down on the number of errors. The only thing is you have to remember who you're inheriting from. So now I can do the same thing with employee. I can add some stuff to it. So what did I put in this employee? I put an ID, and then I put a gross sum. Actually, I did the same thing as I did, so let me just, actually here, I can be creative. I can type it. Oops. See what I mean? I'm like the world's worst typer. I'll call it ID. Now, we don't actually have to do this. In fact, if we don't, I'm going to change it around. If we don't do that, then we don't have to put in the opening and closing bracket. We can just start right here and go property, and you have to go to the data type and go ID. And I can go ID. What else do I have that's an integer? That's it. I just have the ID. Gross sum is an integer, but it's a method. So, oh, job title, but that's a string. Yeah. So, let's do this then. So I'm gonna have to put a semicolon here. If I had more integers, I could string them out just like I did to synthesize the same way. But I can synthesize them all together. So over here in the .m file, and when you're doing it, if you're working in the iOS, it does it for you automatically. But here I can put what was it? The ID, comma, job title. There we go. See, even though it's two different data types, the synthesize is basically saying just create those setters and getters for these properties. It doesn't really worry about it. But over here, I got to pay attention to the data types actually that I'm using. And this one's actually not a pointer because it's a regular old data type. It's not an object data type. This is an NS string. I could use an NS number if I wanted to.
You don't need to unless you want to use the function.
Yeah, it's like correct. Unless I want to use any of the numbers. So it's okay to put you know, float, integer, doubles, anything you want. Actually, I'm going to make this an integer still. And then I don't have to do any object conversion, and I can use printf and scanf with it actually, and it's a built-in native data type. So then I don't have to create these methods. So in this one over here, I had to create for the, I'm not going to create it this time because I don't have to, but this one had a set ID, but this one here, the gross sum, is not one of them. So I ran a function. I created a function, a method here called grow sum. Or how about let's just say grow a little. No, grow sum. Yeah, we'll do grow sum. Anyway, it's going to be a method that's going to be run from employee instead of person, and we're going to make it a person object, or excuse me, an employee object, and run it. So if I go over into here, I should get like a little. Here it is. It took a few minutes. It's going to remind me that the implementation is incomplete because I specified something over here in the grow sum and I didn't implement it yet. So in order to, a lot of people would just do this actually. They would just they wouldn't do this, but they would just put in the opening and closing brackets. Here, I'll show you what okay. They do this, get rid of the warning message. But really you have an unimplemented method, and this one's going to say there's no return, so you can go, you know, return 0. This is just like Java. Because the data type is integer, it has to return something. But you notice this is kind of interesting. That's a warning message. That's not even an error message that comes out of it. Which means the program will compile. But if I ran that function, build succeeded. This is gonna generate an error. It's a warning right now, but when I go load it in main and I use it, I'm gonna get an error message because it can't return anything. It never reaches, control reaches end of non-void function. But this should, you know, it's not an error message though, but it should be is what I'm saying, because this is going to cause a runtime error. So if I put the code in there, actually, we're going to see what happens. So we'll run, we'll leave it alone, and remind me, I'll have to go back and fill it in. We should get an error message or something should happen. Some funny behavior should happen because this has got a problem. So let's see, we have a gross sum. Actually, that's it. That's it. So we go back to main. And what did I do over here? I can cut and paste here. Object employee here. Employee is the name of the class. And I'll put it up here. I like to put my instances all together for some reason. Just keeps them consistent. And I'm going to go, well, why is there an error here? I'm going to hover over and say, well, that's because I didn't declare it. Ooh. Oh, interesting. Same object. So I'm going to press return. This is the object. Okay, so I had multiple errors here. I'm going to call this one 2. And I may have, you know, I probably should have gone through and cleaned up that example before I posted it, because that was in the
example is pointing at the employee.
Is it? No, it's 2. I don't know how mine changed to 1.
Oh.
I don't know what. Maybe I can't even cut and paste correctly here. Copy. Let me paste it again. Paste. The problem is I don't have employee in here. I have to do this. I was going to try and work through the error messages, but I need to do this. Is what the problem is.
But if you have employee headers on it only,
I have it.
Linked to person.it?
I have the header in the implementation of employee in employee.m, but I don't have it out in main. This is main.
So you still require both.
Yeah.
Even though employee already.
Yeah. This is very C++ like as well. Not the same case in Java. Java, we don't have to put all them all in. We don't have to include them all.
Right.
Or import them all. But C++ you do. Objective-C you do. See that message went away. Now it's just going to tell me it's unused. Unused variable object too. It should give me, if I try to do this, it should give me an error message that says it's already created. Redefinition of object 1. So I can't name it the same thing. It has to have 2 different object types. But if I leave this out, this is kind of interesting. Actually, I want to see what happened again because I'm kind of curious now. It's telling me use undeclared identifier object 2 did not mean. Did you mean object 1? No. That's how it got changed. I went like this. And it changed it to 1. And because that was the suggestion that it had for me. which is kind of stupid, actually.
Yeah.
So, because this really needs to be 2. I didn't mean that. So this is not necessarily giving me the best advice.
Is there such thing as typecasting?
There is. We can do that with ID. We can do that with objects.
Like turning employee back into.
I think I actually did that with this one. Did I not do that? No, I didn't do that with this one. I can assign a reference to an object to a different type of object. So if I had ID object 3, no, it's not gonna. That's not gonna work actually right here. I can. It's dynamic object invocation where this object, it's the same concept in Java actually. Object number 2 is also everybody who's an employee is also a person. So I can do an is-a relationship on it, and I can also do a cast from one type to the other type. And then I can also run methods, which is what this is doing. It's taking an employee and treating it like a person. But in Objective-C, you don't have to do the cast. The only cast that you're doing is from ID, which is what I was going to try to do a few minutes ago, but I'm not going to bother with it. You can take and create, because that's all that was in the lecture I gave you, the generic ID type, and then assign it to a reference object. It can be assigned to any object, persons, employees, or anything. So down here, what did I do here? I took object 2 and I set the age to 15. So now that I created the object here, let me just separate this out so you can kind of see this. So object 2, I only have one method, set age, and set age is actually in person. So we can see now that we have all the behavior that was in a person that's being run from an employee. Same thing you get in Java. And then I can grow sum. So what I've done in this grow sum here, I can do it as 2 separate. I can do it as 2 separate calls, or I could nest it. So this is kind of an interesting way of doing it. I'm running a C function call, printf, with an Objective-C method call inside of it. And the method call that I'm running is, objective. Instead of doing this, I took my integer and I assigned it to the get age. And grow sum is just going to multiply it. So I would actually have to print it out. Unless grow sum is printing something out. Let me take a look at grow sum. Oops. Grow sum is returning a value, so I would actually have to print it out again in order for it. Did I actually print it out in here? I may not even print. I may have removed it from here. No, it is doing object 2. It is printing it out. It's printing it out and getting it at the same time. That's what this is doing. So, which is why now I remember why I nested it, because I'm running it in a printf command. So grow results is going to essentially print out the value that's going to come out of this. But I didn't actually have for I didn't set. Did I set? I ran a set age on here. Set age to 10, and same as this one here. So this one should actually increment. So let's see. So age is 15. Grow results 0. Because I didn't set the age for the. I never set the age for employee, or did I? I did right here. Objective 2, set age to 15. Did I just produce the wrong results? Oh, you know what? I didn't have anything to grow some. Oh, that's what I was doing. I was trying to see if I didn't get an error message either. So that was our experiment actually. I was trying to see if I was going to get an error message. Instead, I got the unexpected results.
Oh no, maybe that's the return as 0, which is 0.
0. So let's see what happens if I put the code in here actually.
So by default, it will return nothing.
Yeah. Well, it definitely was not what I was expecting. So let's put the code in here. And so I didn't get an error message, which is kind of weird. I was hoping to get some sort of a message that would come out of that to say, hey, there was no return value out of that. Seriously. So now this should be get 250. Oh, it's times 10.
But it should be 150.
No, because we added 20 to it.
Oh,
But remember, I messed up the age.
self-test age. Oh.
I
So
added
run
20.
Through, so run through the person?
Yeah,
So
because
you add 10 more?
yeah,
Okay.
because I went. Remember, I can take this out actually, and it'll come out correctly. Oops. Age plus 10.
So,
There we go.
So it went through the employee, then the person.
So now it's 150. So it went from employee to person to get the person stuff, and it runs it from person actually. So you can see both objects are sort of working together. So now that's the 150 because I took out that 10 I put in there. So. And I can continue it. I can actually do the same thing with another object. I can make another one on top of employee. If let's say I wanted to do another one, I just come in here, I go file, same thing as before, Objective C, and then I look for the bottom here, and I should see employee in this list. I think it's alphabetical. Oh, I don't see employee in this list. No? Well, if it doesn't, I can always change it. It probably is in the list, I just can't find it. And I didn't save it. I didn't save the project. It should automatically, did I open up the right project? That's the question. I did. File, save. I automatically did save. Well, let me see. Now I'm kind of curious. Let me just do it slower so I can get the right. Coca, Objective C. Did you see it on top? Oh, I did see it. Where'd it go? Here it is, employee. Alright, so I'm going to call this one a supervisor.
I guess if you know the class, then just type it in. It's faster.
Yeah, yeah. So now you see the same thing. Here's another interesting thing to note, however. Before I did this, and I'm really in a bad habit of doing this actually. Wherever you click over here in the Project Explorer window is where the classes are going to be housed. So if I actually see, if you notice I have supervisor up here, but I had everything else in test program. So what is this thing called? This is called the test program. So if I go out here and I look at the test program, supervisor is now on the main level instead of being nested inside with main and employee. So I can move it actually. I can highlight it and move it over if I wanted to. But it does have a tendency, I'm sloppy that way, so I do have a tendency of like having stuff all over the place. But you can take this and go like this with it and move it. And if I go out here, I can just see it's probably should be moved already. Nope, it's not moved. Well, when I save it, it really moves. If it's not automatically saved, it should relocate the files. If not, if you move the files out there and you don't move it in Xcode, they'll turn up red. They'll turn up. The Xcode knows it's in the project, but it doesn't know where it is. So, as an example, this one here that I messed up with, that I nested, it's going to all these files are going to show up red.
It's not the same directory as
Oh, they're not found. If I click on the files, it's going to give me probably an error message that says it can't find it. It's certainly not opening it. You'd think there would be an error message or something, but there isn't. I double-clicked on one. It looks pretty empty to me. And it's only because it's not where it thinks it's supposed to be. Because this one actually, and it's not out there actually. This was like an empty folder that I accidentally put this inside of. This is what happened. And then I should have zipped this. Because this one runs perfectly fine. Unless I've made some typos in it. It's running. I'm sorry?
What kind of pattern is it? Is it like related to MVC or something?
This is not, because it's not using a view. It's not a model view controller. It is an object-oriented inheritance pattern that follows UML. UML as a design document. It can be documented in UML. It's not following a model view controller design pattern because we have no view. But we have data is what we have. All we have is data in this application. So it's not really following any of the design patterns I talked about earlier.
But it's following UML pattern.
It can be it's proper UML because we have inheritance going on. We have the code is but UML is not really UML is not a design pattern. It's an object-oriented documenter. Also designer. You can design your class structures in UML. It's used for documenting what you've already written as well as preparing to write something and to document it. So this would create a really nice UML diagram actually, from person to employee to, this would actually, I'm from Maine, this would actually be a really decent, well it's only 2 classes, but if I continued on and I grew another structure from it, it would give us a really nice diagram that was well formatted. So. Yeah, there's a nice flow to it. Normally I would create the UML diagram before I created the class structure. Right now I'm kind of guessing, let's say supervisor, and I'm guessing, well supervisor's going to come from employee. How do I know that it's not going to come from graduate student or something? Because I can actually, I can go person, right? Here, let me click on inheritance 1 here. File, new, file. I can go back and create a student, right? Student, and make them come from person. Now I have 2 at the same level. Whoops, now I'm in supporting files too. Interesting. So, but I would use it the same way. If I look at this, I'm coming from person, student's coming from person. Well, so is employee. Employee's coming from person too. So, just like Java. Exactly like Java. So it's perfect. Runs the same pattern. So. All right, anything else on this before I move forward? All right, let's go to audio. I haven't put this up yet, and I should put it up. This is a Model View Controller one, audio. So I'm putting together a file that's going to run as a tutorial. If I can, maybe I can edit it while I'm doing this video here, and I can just upload it and put it underneath the video so you guys have it. But it's not out there yet, but what I'll do is I'll go through it so you can kind of see how it works. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create an audio-video app. So you can see how easy it is, really. So step number 1, we're going to actually do this as a tabbed application. So I'm going to go in, because it's also demonstrating tab programs. So create a new program here. And the new program I'm going to create, I have to come up here over iOS and click on the iOS button here. And then I'm going to click on tabbed application, which is the one in the lower right hand corner. You don't have to do this as a tabbed application, but I have audio and video in here, and I just put them on 2 separate tabs. And actually, no, I have a web view in here too. So next, and I'm going to call this another test, another test app. There we go. And I'm going to leave it on the iPhone, and I believe I want to use a storyboard. No, what do I want to use a storyboard? Let's see. This is the way I put together this here. Don't use a storyboard, but use automatic reference counting. So I'm going to unclick storyboard. I have automatic reference counting going on. We know never in the world would I ever want to not select automatic reference counting. The only reason why sometimes you don't select storyboard is maybe you're not going to have that many things in your app. My app is only going to bring up a window, and I'm going to have 2 buttons on it, and I'm going to just decide if I want to do a web browser or if I want to do the app. So if I click on the XIB file here, I see I have a second view controller. If I click on the XIB file for the first view controller, which is conveniently located by file type, they're right next to each other. If I just run the app, I see what the tabbed application gives me automatically, which is actually kind of cool. There's no reason why you'd want to do this manually, because it's going to do it for you automatically. And here it is. So you might notice here actually that I have a circle down here on the first, and I click on the second. Brings up the second view, so I can go first view, second view. I can change these icons as well. And let me show you where the icons are. So we're just getting reoriented to the tab view. So for you guys who are doing the assignments, this is a multi-view application. In fact, you can probably write something like this for your last assignment, because this is what you're doing. This is what you're asking for. This is what I'm asking for, actually. Something, of your choice. Okay, so you can probably see, and actually just kind of relating this again back to the model view controller I talked about in the early class for your benefit. You can see the components of it. I have the first view controller.h and the first view controller.m file that are associated with the first view controller.xib, and then the second view controller sets of files that are associated. And this is created for me automatically. If I clicked here and I bring up the editor, it's going to bring up the second view controller for this tab view here automatically for me. If, let's say for example, I don't want it to be controlled by this one, I can change it. I can change it by clicking on the window itself and then changing the class. And we did this actually like in the beginning of the course. If I had another, I don't have any other controllers in here, but if I had another controller, I could switch the class that was associated with the view so that it was not run by this one, but it was run by another one. I'm going to leave the, actually, you know what, I've got the view selected. Anyway, I'm going to leave that alone, actually, because I don't really need it. I mean, I'm going to just leave it on the defaults. Okay, so I'm going to go to the first view controller here, and I'm just going to delete what's on here, because I'm going to put a web view on here. Oops, don't need my email out either. Shut that. So let's see. I'm going to type in on the bottom here, just because I want to make the app interesting. I'm going to type in web view on the bottom here. And I'm going to load the web view in here. So I got a little lovely web view in here. Alright, that sounds pretty good. So then over here on my, I'm going to close this side piece here as well, just to make my real estate look a little bit better. Oops. If I can only figure out how to click on these windows. Okay, there we go. Don't click on that either. So I put a web view in the first view. This is just basically demonstrate there's two separate views and two separate controllers going on here. I'm going to press down the control button and I'm going to drag it over here and I'm going to stick it in between the interface and the end. I'm going to call this web display. Web display. And press on connect. So now in the first view controller, so the second view controller is not going to know anything about my web display, but the first view controller does. So then I can change the code for it in the .m file over here. If I go down to the bottom, I'm going to see, and this is what you get in the iPhone application that you don't get. You don't get, actually. Well, I didn't create an action, so I'm not going to have an action, but I can work with the property already over here. See, I have synthesized web view going on over here already, which is kind of not fair. When you write it, or native app for the MacBook or whatever, you know, you don't get this automation that you do in the iOS, which is kind of, because you know, if I put a button on here, actually I could put a button on here too. In fact, if I could figure out, oh, here's another little trick here. So I put the whole thing in, I can actually pull it out, and I can resize it this way, and then put it back in. Oops, as long as I don't, you know what I should do is move this up. One of my students actually said, just move it up. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea.
It's an option build too, that you can resize it.
Yeah, I know. That way I don't click on my taskbar all the time, or move the taskbar too. So I can put it back in. Oops, I didn't put it back in. Alright, so if that doesn't work, I can always do it this way. Drop it inside of the, now it's back in. And then now I can move it around. So my web view is not taking up the whole space, because you know, I want to put a button in here. Let's say, for example, I'm going to put like a close button in here because I want to be able to close my app. So if I'm going to do that, then I can go back to the library and I'm going to click on the side panel to bring up my library again, and I'm just playing around here. I'm just going to put a button in here. And so the button is going to show up down here, and I'm just going to call this exit. It's kind of like a non-standard way of doing something, actually, because you can just close the app, but the app's going to still be running if you close the app on the device itself. But exit's just going to tear it down completely because I'm going to run exit 0, which is a C command, actually. So then I still have the .h file opened up over here. Let me make this a little bit bigger. And I'm only doing this because I want to show you the IB action. Yeah, I'm sorry. it should be the, oh, I'm sorry, thank you, .h. So open up the .h file. And then this is when we right mouse click and we go touch up inside or whatever, any one of the touches you like the best. Touch. There's a touch down. Actually, here I'll do the touch down. Control button, click it over here. And then I'm going to say exit button. And then I'm going to change the ID type to actually to the UI button because I want it to have a UI IB action with the IB outlet that's associated with it for an outlet. But it's going to do the same thing. But the only thing here is going to say button as the data type. If I wanted to change something about the button, add an image to the button, do something with it, I'm going to have to treat it like a button. If I treat it like an ID, I don't have the same methods that are associated with it. An ID is the generic data type, as we've seen so far for objects. So, but you'll notice if you go to the .m file over here, on the bottom, look at that, it's already created for me. That's what I was complaining about. You don't get that in the non-iOS part. So here I'm just going to type in exit 0, which is a C call. It says exit the program, exit the lifecycle. I haven't really done the lifecycle yet. But this example is kind of twofold. So when the program hits this, in fact, actually, if I run it right now, it's not a bad idea to run it, before you're completely done with the program. Just make sure you haven't accidentally done something to it. It should bring up my window here, and I can see I can still click here, and I see the second view, but my first view is gone, and I haven't loaded anything into my web view yet. But if I click the exit button, my app ends quite nicely. So. Alright, so now I'm going to add some more functionality here. In fact, let's get this web view to do something. So I'm going to, let me connect the web view first, and then I'm going to do this out of order because I think I want to switch this anyway. So I'm going to cut and paste, and then I'll go over the code so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. On the view controller for the first view, I don't have it uploaded yet, but I'm going to show it to you and go over it in a few minutes here. So you'll be able to type it as you see it on the screen, hopefully. You're going to want to edit the view did load. So it's going to be on the top of the first view controller. We're going to put in, which means after, and I always put the super view did load, I always put it on the top. Okay, so the view is the main component that the controller is controlling. And the view has a life cycle. When the view loads, when the view unloads, when the view pauses, when the view resumes, which means you were on the view and I went to view 2. Well, that's going to be like the view pausing. The view is going to rotate. The view is going to, but really what we're concerned with, we're going to initialize it maybe. But the initialization is already set for us. It's already labeled for us. So the view did load and the view did unload. If I was going to open up a file, I could close a file or something. I could save a file on the unload. So I'm going to paste this in, and then I'll pause the screen here so you can write it down and make the screen a little bit bigger. Don't need the super did. It's already on there. All right, what are we doing? Creating a string. The string is going to be called a URL address and a string. And the string is going to be equal to, this is the same thing we did for any other string, for name, for anything. It's going to be equal to @itu.edu. And it could be any address you want. What we're doing is just creating a URL that we're going to load in the web view. And then we have an object called an NSURL. So the URL has a certain format to it. It has the prefix, the HTTP or the HTTPS, or whatever it is you're putting in there, separated by the domain, all the different components here. So we're going to put it into the structure that it needs to be into by calling the initializer for URL. So NSURL pointer URL, this is, you're familiar with this part already. This is the same way we're creating any other object. And here we're just saying NSURL, run this method. The method is going to be URL with string. A method that takes a string, well this is the string we just created in the previous line, and converts it, takes this string and creates a NSURL object with this string. Because we have to send the URL object to the web browser that we created. So we're going to create this request object, and we're going to send the object to the web display object. And the web display object was, this is what I called when I dragged and dropped over the property, which is up here, web design, web display. So whatever you synthesize, let me put this back so you guys are copying this code down. So hopefully you can see it. So there's really no need to actually have to cut and paste it, or you can just copy it hopefully. So what we're doing here is we're going NSURL. We're creating the URL, then we're going URL request, which is another object. It's a request object that's going to be called the request object. And we're going to run NSURL request with URL, this URL, and this is the URL. So it's actually kind of 3 steps. So create the URL object, perform the request, or create the request object, send the request object, load the request object to the web display. Why do you have to do it in 3 different steps? I don't know. In Android, you just tell it, hey, go to this address. There's no, well, you can convert. You can actually use the URL, but it's a little bit more automated. Can we get that far? Yeah. Okay, good. So now if you run it, the web view should come up. If you have an internet connection, should come up with whatever URL you stuck on there. So mine's going to come up in a few minutes. But I cut my object short, so I'm scrolling actually with my mouse in here, and you can see I still see the exit button on the bottom. But I have this, you know, I'm on, oh, there we go, the clicks are working, kinda, but I only have half of my web view showing. So if I press the button down here to stop it, and I go back into the web view, what's it called again? It's called it's still up. Because of the life cycle, the view loaded, I paused it, and this is the same activity you're going to get on your phone. So the app is actually still running it. I'm switching, this is a switch, so it's still running in the background. When I run it's actually kind of it's a system call, this exit took it down completely. Now when I load it up, it has to load it back from scratch again. It's not already loaded, which is what that exit's doing.
How? So it kills the thread? It doesn't...
Yeah, exit kills the thread. It's a
But
system call to the Linux kernel.
The home button, and it doesn't kill.
No, it's still running. It's in the background. Because you can leave this up. Switch, run another app. Here, I got the calculator app up. Switch, go back to this app. Still running. In fact, if I go back to the calculator app, still running. So that's what this exit's doing. It's killing it completely. So now when I load it up again, oh, it's like it never ran before. It kills the process. Exit 0. So it comes in handy sometimes when you just want it to end. You don't want it to run in the background.
Is it different from Android? Because Android you have to create a thread to live.
Yeah.
You exit.
The life cycle is slightly different than Android. Because you know, Android is one process at a time, and iPhone is multiple processes running simultaneously, multi-threaded. Which is why everyone in the beginning went, oh, iPhone much better than Android. Because that Android Delvic JVM thing, whatever they call it, only can process one. That's why you have intents to close a process, open up another process, close a process. You're constantly going intent back and forth. Close a process, open a process, close a process, and then things die and your app just goes away. Much more of the user having to control what's running. This is running. This guy's running. You know, all these programs here. Monkey Pinch is running. He's running. And I can go back and forth, and they're still running. So if I move Monkey over here, and I come back in, he's still moved over here. It's the same instance of the same app.
So it doesn't kill.
I can't. There's no kill in here. There's no way exiting out of this program. This program, however, has got an exit on it.
And that will
Yeah, it closes the thread, it exits the thread. It's actually a system call that goes down. This is another Linux kernel. They're both running Linux. or this is BSD. This is Mac OS X Linux, BSD Linux. Android is Java Linux, Delvic. It's Linux compatible, but it's definitely different breeds completely, totally different life cycles. All right, so we got that far. We got our web view going here. I know we're going to talk about audio. So we want to add audio. So we have, and this is going to be a test, you actually have to find some audio files because we're going to load the audio. Okay, this website's coming from a URL.
Can it be default audio from like?
You can. I don't have any audio on this computer outside of what I have, and I don't have. I should do that. I should remember. Hopefully, I will remember to run pictures and audio from the device. You can get at the assets on the device, the pictures, the video. I should let me make a little note to self actually. Well, I'll put it down here. Hold on 1 second.
So for audio, do you just add like a widget or something, or?
Well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you in a second. Examples of assets from phone. Yeah, that's a good one. Thanks for that suggestion. Actually, it's good. Okay, so let's load an audio file. So in order to get an audio file, actually, this is a new project here. Let's see how we load files in. So you can go to the internet, and maybe you have something on your computer. I don't know. An MP3 file is what you need. So find an MP3 file. And I happen to have one right here, actually, called music.mp3. And, oh, yeah, okay, good. And I'm going to take this music file, and I'm going to drag it into the project. And I'm going to copy it into the project. Because when I delete the project, I don't want to use the file. I just want to make a copy of it, because I still want it in this other project. So I'm going to finish. And then now I see I have this file in here. If I open up the file, it should recognize it as an audio file. And I actually could play it here if I wanted to. And I still see it's out here. Which brings up another point about images and things that you're adding to the project. I have, if you click on this here, you can also drag into the interface things like, for example, the app icons. So you can set the path, you can set the device, the target, main storyboard stuff, supported orientations. You can actually restrict the app from going into landscape mode if you don't want it that way or something by clicking on this. Like here, it doesn't support upside down mode, but it supports all these other ones. Another nifty thing is you can take, and I have these apps saved, these images saved, but you're going to end up, in here I'll show you what would happen actually if I do them in reverse order, but the images are in a particular format. Here, let me take another image actually. I have images everywhere. Let me take a diner image. Let me take this one here. I'm going to copy it because I don't want to destroy it. And I'll put it on my desktop here. And I'm going to call this one unsuitable. Oops, here it is over here. I'm going to call this one, I'll just call it logo, just to be consistent here. This is the logo for the app. Alright. If I go into preview on the logo, and I've kind of moved on to a separate topic here just as a tangent, just because I don't think I've ever showed you this. If you double click on it, it'll bring it up in a preview on a Mac. And I see this little logo here, and the logo here, if I go into Tools and I look at the size, I see the size is set on 19 on the height and 33 on the width. I mean on the width and the height. You know what I mean? If I take and I drag this guy and I put him in here and I say, well, I want to use this as my app icon, because I've got app icons for Retina display and also for regular. And it's going to come back and say, invalid image. The image must be 57 by 57. Oh, bummer. So then you go over the internet and you say, where's an image that's 57 by 57? Usually it's 50, 55. Alright, so here's a quick and easy way of changing your image around. This is what I did actually to create the default images that I'm using for my samples. Just size, what did it say, 57? 57 by 57. It's going to warp my image a little bit. Oops, I went 5. I want 57. Discard change, yes, okay. It's invalid, I know. 57 by 57. I was already telling you earlier I can't type.
Oh, you have to uncheck the scale button.
Okay, 57 by 57. 57 by 57. There we go. 57 pixels by 57 pixels. So now, okay, I can duplicate it and create another one, which I have, and it's going to be called logo copy, which is, save it to the desktop. So I haven't destroyed my original, I got logo copy. Now if I drag logo copy in here, it works. So you can use preview, you don't have to go out and buy paint programs, or adjust your image sizes and all that. So preview will do it for you, and then we'll save a copy of it. When I run the icon, when I run the program now, I'm not on a retina display, so it's going to show me this. If I want to have a higher resolution, this is like 114 or something. If I take the same image and I put it in here, I think it's going to be like, yeah, 114 by 114. So I can do the same thing, but you can't see it on this computer anyway. I don't have a retina display. I have the iPad 3 though. It looks really nice. Oh yeah, the images look really nice on there. Anyway, so let's go back to this program here. Huh? I know. I know, they're calling it just the iPad now. It's the 3rd generation now. Okay, so what I haven't showed you yet is this pane here. If I click on the project over here and I look in the middle, this is where I can add stuff. So I can change the build settings, build phases, build rules. In the build phases department here, if you click on the linked libraries, we see we get by default Foundation, which is what we need for the Mac actually. We have Core Graphics and UI Kit because we're importing UI Kit in our programs. So I'm going to click on this little itsy bitsy, this is the hard part, this itsy bitsy little plus sign over here. Does not look like something that's clickable, does it? No. So if you click it on, click on there, it brings up the screen. And I want audio. So I'm going to go audio. And I'm going to click on audio framework. And I don't believe it's video. What is the other one? I have it written down here actually. My little cheat sheet so I can remember what it's called. Media player. You don't actually need this one here. I don't believe we need this one. Media player is the other one we're going to put in here. So plus media player because I have a movie file that I'm going to play as well. Media. That one I did I show you. I just did a real quick one actually, like 2 seconds. QuickTime will do it as well. I didn't put an advertisement. I didn't put my video in here. Let me see. Let me put my video in here too. Here's my short video. So I'm gonna drag it. I would just put like a 2-second video. Oops. There we go. Copy it in here. So now I have an audio file and a video file in here. So there we go. Perfect audio, and I got my copied image. So all your stuff's going to show up essentially in here. Okay, so let's get those tab controllers working. So I really want to go to the second tab controller now because the first one's got my web program on there. So I'm just going to delete the stuff that's on here because I don't really need it on there. And instead I'm going to put a couple buttons on there, one to play the audio, one to play the video. So I'm going to drag from the library button here. So this one's going to say play audio. And then I'm going to drag another button over here. I'm going to say play video. Play video. Alright, we're set. We're all done. Nope, not yet. We're getting there. So I'm going to close this side window. And, make sure I'm in the H file. I am. And now I'm going to connect the... actually, I'm going to put one in here. I'm going to put another one in here that says stop. Stop audio. Because, you know, audio is irritating when it just keeps going forever. So, I'm going to stick this guy next to the video over here. I'm going to say stop audio. There we go. We got play audio, stop audio. My video is so short, it's not even going to need stopping. So, go to right mouse click. I'm going to take the, what do I use? It doesn't really matter. I'm going to do touch down. Works for me. I'm going to drag it in here, and this one's going to be the start video, so start video, or no, start audio, I'm sorry, start audio, and the ID is going to be UI button, okay, then I'm going to See, this window should close automatically, but it doesn't. Because, you know, you might want to select another one. You can select as many as you want, actually. These are all the different events. Touchdown. This is going to be stop audio. And oh, while I'm here, I might as well do this one too. So this one's going to be a touchdown event. And this one's going to be a start movie. Video. Audio, video. There we go. Alright, we get that far? Getting there? Okay. While you're getting there, I have to get myself. I have to cut and paste my code because I can't remember what I'm doing. Now I'm in the second view controller.m file. Okay. I know I'm going to have to put some header files in because I'm going to make instances of classes that don't exist in my project yet. So I'm going to actually probably going to need to modify the .h file if I'm going to put something in here, or I need to modify the .m file if I'm going to put something in there. So I'm going to go to my cheat sheet here and look at this and says, well, in the .h file I'm going to have to import, so I'm going to cut and paste all three. I don't believe I need all three. I only need two of them, actually. In my .h file, pasting them in here. I may not even need them in the .h either because I'm not really doing anything. I got audio toolbox. If you start typing here, let me just do a test here, actually. Imports. No, you have to type it. It's not going to autocomplete for you. I've got audio toolbox / audio toolbox.h, which is where this is coming from. This is like foundation.h, coming from the foundation framework. So this is really the framework, and this is the header file, the interface file that's in the framework that we're including. You need to do it for both. And then out here in the audio section here, we also have to implement. So remember the protocol lecture we had? I don't know if we did protocols for Objective-C. So that's what if you take Objective-C simultaneously, you get the. What I'm doing here is implementing a protocol. And the protocol that I'm implementing, oops, is going to give me an error message. Let's see where I'm at here. Interface, UI view controller, second view controller. Let me just see what happened here. Actually, I'm going to cut this line and put it in. I may have accidentally put a line return in when a line return wasn't expected. App audio delegate. Oh, you know what? Now that's what the message says, actually. Can't find protocol declaration AV audio player delegate. Ah, I bet I need this one. I bet I do need the foundation. Okay, so I was thinking, I don't think I need that foundation. But you know what? You do need the foundation. AV foundation will give you the AV audio player delegate. So all three are needed, actually. Okay, good. So this one actually comes, this is part of foundation. So audio, video, foundation, separate file, separate include. Which is what I thought, because I got foundation in there, but I don't have AV foundation. Okay, so now in here I can say, and what I need to do is create an instance, which is the reason why I'm doing this, is I need to create an instance of this player, and I'm going to create this instance variable. Same thing we did with employee, person, and everything else. I'm creating a reference object, and the reference object that I'm creating is called player, and it is of data type AV audio player. That's coming from AV audio player delegate. That's part of AV foundation. So I've included this. It's part of this protocol. This is a protocol, which is like a interface in Java, actually. So this is what we learned last week. or last week, Monday, actually, I believe. So. And then we have my 2 buttons, and here are my 2 buttons. So now all I have to do is wire up the buttons to start and stop the video and or the audio. So I'm going to go back to the .m file here, and in my .m file, gotta make some changes. And I have to cut and paste this because I'm lame, but I'm going to do one and then I'll do the other one. So this one is going to be for play audio. And towards the bottom, you're going to see there are 3 methods here. So mine, I'm going to call it start audio here. I called it start, play, start. So let's make this a little bit bigger so we can see what's going on here. And what am I doing here? So, because you're probably going to be typing this in because you didn't cut and paste it. Again, we're doing an NS URL. Well, what is the URL? The URL is actually, this could come from the internet. The way this is set up, we could load this audio from the internet. We don't actually have to load it. All we have to do is get a valid URL. Remember the website example? Alright, so same as before though, but we're going file URL with path, NS string, string with format. Well, what's the format? You have to make sure you put this in here. This is the / directory location. And it's not going to be called audiofile.mp3. My file here is actually called music.mp3. So I'm going to change this one here to music.mp3. So I have my file name correct, and yours is going to be probably something different depending upon how you labeled it. And make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see what I'm talking about. That's as big as it gets. Okay. This is just optional. It's not optional, but it's error checking. Not really optional, but so far I haven't really been doing very much error checking in anything. NS error. It's an NS error object because I want to make sure. In fact, if I run this with the wrong name, it's going to come back and say, "Hey, file not found." It's going to actually generate an error for me because what I'm going to do is player is equal to, and this is the player object that I created in the .h file, is going to be equal to AV audio player alloc. Same thing as creating a student or creating a person or an employee. And run the initializer in it with contents of URL and the URL. And here's the URL up here. This is the URL. And then we're also running the init with, and the init requires, okay, so there's a reason why we put this error in here, although I'm not really using the error, is that one of the parameters for the initialization requires, and the second parameter is, it's a good standard to send it in there, so we send it, and this is kind of weird. It's a pointer, and we use the ampersand because it's the address of the error. If you're a C++ programmer, that makes a lot of sense to you. If it's kind of like the scanf, when you do ampersand in the variable name, it gives you the address of the variable that you're going to load the memory into, which is kind of the equivalence. So. Player.number of loops is equal to -1. It just starts at the beginning. At the beginning of the player, you can actually start the file in the middle if you wanted to, depending upon the position that you're going to give it. So this is going to start at 0. And then if the player is equal to nil, which means if the object wasn't created, then nslog error, and then print out the description. The description is coming from the error object that was created. Else, here's what we're doing here. We're going player play. So if I wanted to stop the player, then I run player stop. So down here on the bottom, I can go player stop. Nice little method. So player has associated with it start and stop. So you can see how that is sort of working, hopefully. Yeah, that's the method called stop that I'm sending to player. Player is the object that I created in the .h file from AV player space * player. I created an instance of that object. And I'm using that object in the .m file to just the same way as we created NSString for name. And then over in the M file, we name is equal to, well, actually we didn't do a name, but it's the same concept actually. Age, we did age. We set the age earlier. So here we have player is equal to alloc player. I'll make this available. I'll put this online actually as soon as I get done with the lecture. So let me make sure here that I didn't have any didn't do anything wrong in terms of, I'm actually kind of cross-checking my notes here to make sure when I put this up it actually works, so.
Now you make me think all these apps are so
Easy.
simple to make, and
Yeah.
yeah, they get so much money out of
Yeah, yeah, you're in the wrong, I'm in the wrong business. All right, so play video. Let's play video now. So we already know how to play the,
Could be a Netflix app on this.
I know. Actually, you should see this other one I'm putting together for fun. I decided for some strange reason, I started making kids games. I don't know.
It's the hardest thing is to host a server. That's with all the data in it.
Yeah.
Your apps basically
Yeah.
to actually in and out.
And you go to the server and you get the information, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to paste this code in and go over the code for the video. It's going to look very similar to the audio. Okay, so here's the video. But, different though. We're going to have a little error message here that says movie player. What's that? Well, we didn't make it yet. So I got to go up and make an instance of movie player. So it's going to be mPlayer movie player. So I didn't put that in here, did I? So now I'm cross-checking my notes here. Nope, I have to add mPlayer movie player up here. So this is movie player, and it's of type mMovie player controller. So here we go. Copy. I can put it up here, and in here I'm gonna go paste. What did I call it? Player or movie player? I think I called it a movie player. Thank you. Little asterisk in here. Movie player. There we go. So I have my instance of this object movie player. So if I go back here, it's going to still give me some error messages. Nope, the error messages go away. It takes a few minutes for the system my system for some strange reason, to reset. So what does this look like? You can probably cut and paste some of this code up here and put it down here, actually, because it's very similar. What do we got here? Oh, this one's supposed to be called short. It is called short, which is good. So actually, if I make this a little bit bigger, I can kind of compare the two here. It's doing a similar concept, actually, where we have the NS URL, NS bundle. This is taking the bundle, main bundle. Well, it's slightly different. Instead, this is taking for past resources. So this is not pulling it from it's pulling a URL string. We could set the string for a URL. We could actually run it from an internet location as well. It doesn't have to be locally put in here, but it's coming from path for resource, which means this resource is locally allocated inside of the project.
Short. Can use the same line for
no, it's a slightly different. We're doing an NS bundle, main bundle for it because we're not. It's kind of it's a slightly different way of doing it, accomplishing the same task, not running the init. Up here we're running an NS string, the init. And actually, you know what? It's just in a different order. It's in a slightly different order because we are running NS bundle up here as well. And you can try cut and pasting it. It might actually work. It should work. It's the same code actually. Slightly different order. I put the NS URL here. So NS URL is going to be equal to the full URL path of this URL here, which is the string that was created. I think the same code is actually going to work for you if you cut and paste it and change the file names. The only part that's different here is we have a movie player that's going to be equal to this movie player alloc init with URL, which is actually kind of an easier line because we didn't set any parameters on it. Here I can say the size of it. So actually, I'm going to change the size. I'm going to make it a little smaller. I'm going to go 200 by 300. I'm going to move it. Actually, let's go 200 by 200. Make it real small, actually. This is going to be a real small video. And little line in here. Actually, I'm going to save this actually as my, this is a cleaner version than the one I created earlier today when I was testing this out. Okay, so movie player is equal to movie player alloc, init with the URL. Self.view, add the subview movieplayer.view because we have a screen that's part of the movie player. Slightly different than the audio because we don't have a window component for the audio. Instead we have a player component. Movieplayer.view.frame is equal to CG rectangle make, which basically is going to create our frame. And it's going to create it at the top of the screen at 0, 0 coordinates is the top left hand side of the screen, down 200 by 200. So it's really only going to go down maybe half of my screen. And then I'm going movie player play. So I could put a button on there that said stop, but where am I going to put the button? So that's why I made the movie player small, because watch this. I can go back here and say, you know what, I want to change my design a little bit. Oops, okay, I want to make sure you guys can still copy that for those people who are still copying it. So it's still in the view. So back over here, I could put something down here. If I'm starting up at the top and I'm coming down 200 by 200, it's not going to take up my whole window. But it's going to go on top of this window because it's going in the view. So the view.frame is going in the add sub view. It's going into a view for my second view controller. If I wanted to, I could put it into another view. I can create another view and stick it in the other view if I wanted to. But in this particular case, I'm just going to add it to the current view. So I can actually put another button on here, put a button towards the bottom. Let's see. Oh, there we go. You guys can still see the code that's in it. Are you still copying it down?
I just finished.
Oh, okay, good. Perfect. Because I think you're the only one copying it down. So on the bottom here, I can, put in another exit button if I want to, as an example, and then put in a stop video. Stop video. Okay. And then I'm going to go back to my .h file over here. And I'm going to, it's called wiring, actually. So we call it wire the controls. So I'm going to wire the control in. And I'm going to do the touchdown event again because I like that one. Touchdown. And this is going to be exit video. Exit video. And I'm going to make it a UI button. You don't have to put these buttons. It's kind of optional. I'm just kind of playing around right now. Because now I'm going to use this as my demo for the weekend. So, you guys are my guinea pigs to see if this actually, the design is okay. The design is pretty okay though. Stop video. Stop video. I'm going to call it stop video. So I'm going to say UI video, touchdown. Okay. I'm going to close this little window. I'm going to go back to the .m file. And see where it says movie player play. Same thing works over here. Stop. Movie player stop. So, movie player stop. Okay. And then, let's just put the exit 0 in here. So I made an exit button, exit 0. Oops. Now I should be ready to roll. So I'm going to go ahead and run it. See what happens. Crash, bang, 2 errors. 2 error messages. What are the error messages? Whoa. References. Class in reference O symbol found in architecture I-86. Wow. Interesting. Looks like I go project clean here. Let's just clean up the project a little bit. Clean successful. Good deal. No issues. So, whoa. Build failed. Undefine object in architecture. Let's see. Interesting. Interesting. Let's see what it says up here. Did yours run?
No.
You have the same error? Or you have a different problem?
I'm stuck at the description.
At the description.
And that's long description.
Okay, I'll have to take a look at yours in a few minutes here. Linker command failed to exit code. Oh, you know what? I bet I have a problem with that exit I just typed in there. So I'm going to go back and go back into the .m file. Well, let me just pull this out, actually. Maybe didn't like that exit in there. That one should be okay, actually. The code is actually pretty good. Let's see, run it. Interesting, interesting. Should not be getting these errors. Let's see. Format. Oh, that's not gonna be the problem here. User library VIX code derived data. Another test. Activity log complete. Symbol not found in architectures. Complaining about my i386 architecture. Let me put it on the iPad. No, why is it, this is an iPhone application. Interesting. I close the project and bring it back up again and find out. Actually, let me clean out this emulator as well. And where'd that project go? Oh, another test. Of course. Come back up where I left off. Object class audio, AV audio player referenced from second view controller. Okay, so second view controller, AV audio player. Let's do this just to be safe. Not gonna have to do that, but let's just see what happens. Build failed. Let's see. It's gonna be the same three issues, isn't it? Let me try something here. Hold on. Interesting. Let me pull this out. This doesn't actually belong in there. Remove reference. Oh, no. Cancel. Okay. Let's take this. Whoops, no, this one was needed. Undo. Well, I have it working, and when I previously, maybe I'm not going to use this one then. I previously had it working in another example that I had running. So hold on. Let me make sure I have my synthesizers and everything correct here, because sometimes that could cause a problem. Second view controller. Oh, did I just remove it? Oh, this is the .m file. Okay, so into the .h file. Let's just take this out. See if I can get the. I'm commenting out the audio because the message was related to the audio file for some strange, or the audio call. So I'm going to comment out the audio code. Five messages this time. Okay, so. Okay, hold on 1 second. I'm going to see if I can get the video to work at least. Alright, let's just bring up the controller over here. Okay. Why are we still? Yeah, I know it's unused. Used of unclarified player. Yes, I know. Alright, so I commented out the audio, and it appears to be working right now. Let's just take. Oh, it's on iPad as well, so that was a mistake. I probably should put it back on iPhone. So let's see if the video actually runs. I'm not quite sure why the audio. I might have a typo or something in there. So let's see. Play the video. There's my itsy bitsy little video.
Hey everybody, this is a short video for demonstration purposes.
Stop the video. So I made this a little bit smaller than I needed to make it. I believe that the audio should work. In fact, I have it. I probably have a typo in the code, is what I'm thinking, because.
So why are we using the audio?
Oh, we can use the movie player to play the audio as well. We don't have to. Yeah, you can play the audio with the movie. Is that what you're doing?
Because I don't have video, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can use the audio on the video player. This one here, this project here, actually, you can see it actually has them both working. I believe I probably have a typo or something in the audio part of it. If I run this one here, which is the same project, actually the video is a little bit bigger, but I have to scale down the video to make it more efficient. Excuse me, make it so it doesn't cover up the screen so I can hit the exit button behind it. Hello. Thought I was running it. My computer seems to be, okay, come on. You can run. Oh, no IO device. Okay, hold on a second. Let me change the device over to, I don't have my physical device connected, which is what the problem was. So you can run, it's mPlayer. So mPlayer is, just another way of doing it. You don't actually have to do it that way. So this is the same code, actually, but this one actually works. So that's playing video. It's a little guitar thing. And this one here.
Hey everybody, this is a short video for a demonstration.
I have the exit button behind it, so it was I need to modify that one. Why this other one doesn't work? Good question. Probably a typo, actually. Where'd it go? And probably we'll figure it out 5 minutes after I end this video, but here it is. I'm going to take another little quick look at it, actually, because now I'm kind of curious. It was complaining about the instance that I made, actually, over here. It was complaining about this right here. So I'm going to slowly, this is a good way of actually kind of troubleshooting things. And sometimes, oh, I still have it on the iPad. Sometimes, I'll switch that over. Well, that's not going to, the video will play. Okay, so sometimes it's not you, it's the Xcode that has an issue. And actually, you may have seen a few minutes ago, I ran this project clean up here. When you get errors like that, sometimes it's memory related, it hasn't refreshed, it hasn't released something, it has an old value stored. So what I did is I just uncommented out that code right there, and so I'm going to go down, I'm going to go back to the .m file, which is over here. Now I'm just going to make the instance of the mPlayer and set the player here and just see what happens with that without actually starting it. So then I'm going to run it here and watch the whole thing work. Actually, no, got some messages here. So this is interesting. So I know I have a problem with the creation of the alloc. So let's see. So that's the code that it's complaining about, was the code that I just uncommented. So I'm going to compare that code actually to the one that I have in this other project to see what I've done differently. Just because I'm kind of curious. Obviously, you're not going to necessarily have code to compare to when you're doing it, but you can compare it to like an example or something if you're running from a website or something. Or a website example or something. This is another test.m, which is going to be, excuse me, second view controller.m, and this is second view controller.m. So I've loaded up this other file actually, and what I'm going to do is kind of go into my start audio, which over here I called it play audio. So now I'm thinking, well, maybe there's something different about the syntax. So I'm going to cut and paste here. Copy here. Probably have, because I cut and pasted it from a Word file, I think, originally, I might have like, some special character or something in there. So pull this out. Paste it in here. Now run it. Bill failed. Interesting. Interesting. Which is kind of weird. It's kind of weird. Because it's the same code that's working just fine in the other example, which is kind of weird. It's complaining about the object class, AV audio player, referenced from the .o file. So it's compiling just fine. It's the linking of the objects. Looks like an Xcode issue. I've actually seen this happen, believe it or not, and I've recreated the project from scratch, and it works just fine. Xcode is a bit buggy. It's not 100% actually. So don't think that just you know, if you work to a certain, that's why I have a habit of continuously testing as I'm writing it, because I want to stop it if something like this is going to happen halfway through my app. I want to make sure I've got it saved so I can go back and I don't have to start from scratch. But because this is an object linking issue, and I just cut and paste and I put the same code I put into the other one. I've also noticed that if you use some reserve words like the word view, or if you used, you know, it'll accept it in certain circumstances, it'll accept that information, but then it will generate an error. So at this particular stage when it starts doing the linking. So this is a linker error, actually, which is kind of weird. So I suspect if I close down, and I'll probably try it later, but if I close down Xcode and reload it, that may also fix the problem as well. So I'm going to leave it at that, leave it up to an Xcode abnormality, and because it's a linker problem, which is kind of weird. It may also be that I have too much running on this computer, and it might be running low on memory, or I have something corrupted. I have noticed if you do load Xcode and run it for multiple projects simultaneously and keep just creating stuff over and over again, it does leave a lot of garbage, and so it might be running out of garbage space, or I don't know. Who knows what's going on? Did you get yours to work?
The music part doesn't. It's error out.
Huh, I'll come over and take a look at it. Okay, that's the end of this particular lecture.